Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into something pretty interesting, maybe even a bit challenging. Can really sticking to what you believe is true actually make your relationships more difficult?
It's a fascinating question. And if it does, well, how do you handle that? Especially, with family or people really close to you.
Exactly. And we're looking at this through a YouTube meditation, actually, focusing on the ancient book of Titus.
Right, Paul's letter to Titus. It touches on leadership, finding your purpose, how communities work.
And we think diving into the history, the sort of why behind it, can give us some real wisdom for right now.
Absolutely, how these old ideas might still apply, especially in how we get along or sometimes don't get along with others.
Okay, so let's jump in. The source kind of sets the scene first. Paul leaves Titus behind in Crete.
Yeah, Crete. And his job, basically, was to, and I'm quoting here, straighten out what was left unfinished and appoint elders in every town.
Elders meaning the community leaders.
Essentially, yes. Bringing some structure. And connecting this to the bigger picture, the meditation suggests that God often works through people, ordinary people. It puts forward this really powerful idea that our purpose, our reason for existence as saints, is to raise people who hold God's true heart.
Huh. Like Titus being left in Crete, which the source calls rough, stubborn, and dangerous. Not exactly an easy assignment.
Not at all. It makes you think about the rough places maybe we're in, the challenges we face in our own communities or circles.
That idea of being left in this world for a specific reason, a kind of generational task.
Yeah.
That's pretty profound. The source also mentions a historical pattern here, too.
It does. It talks about how humanity has gone through, really dark times. And it wasn't just random luck, but maybe because of God's forgiveness and often that one person in different eras.
Like Noah or Abraham.
David, the prophets. Individuals who apparently risked a lot to communicate God's will or core truths. And it raises this thought. The source suggests that when people collectively forget those principles, their mission, that's when judgment, or maybe just significant difficulties, tend to arise.
Okay, now this is where it gets really practical, I think. The meditation looks at the qualifications for these leaders, these overseers. Yeah. It's from Titus chapter 1, verse 7. Must be blameless, not overbearing, not quick-tempered, not given to drunkenness, not violent, not pursuing dishonest gain.
Wow, yeah.
That's quite the list.
It really is. But the insight offered isn't, oh no, I can never measure up. It's more about humility. It's meant to guide us toward what the source calls the path of true faith.
So less about perfect performance and more about the heart behind it.
Exactly. The crucial thing for a leader, or really any of us, is striving for an exemplary life. That means, according to the source, really loving the Bible, trying to discern God's will, because that's supposedly how we avoid false traps of heresy.
You mean avoid ideas or actions that pull us away from the core truth?
Precisely. Staying grounded in those foundational principles.
Which brings us right back to that title. Following the truth can mean uncomfortable relationships. How does living up to these standards affect things?
Well, the source is pretty direct about it. Living by these standards can make relationships uncomfortable, especially if others aren't on the same page. It even mentions Stephen Covey's idea, from the 7 Habits, the no-deal approach.
Right, where if a relationship isn't working or becomes toxic, you just step away, cut ties.
Yeah, basically. A strategy lots of people use today, kind of for self-preservation.
But then the meditation makes a really important distinction.
It does. It argues that Covey's no-deal approach cannot be applied for long or not at all within families.
Okay.
And then it extends that idea to the church, describing it as a family relationship with God as Father.
Ah, so the rules are different within that family context. You can't just cut and run.
That seems to be the point. The church, like a biological family, needs a different approach. It has to actively teach and practice things like care, love, patience, and gentleness.
To foster humility, forgiveness, tolerance even.
Exactly. Because the standard isn't just human philosophy or what feels convenient. It's presented as God's word, the sole, absolute standard. It implies enduring through discomfort, working things out.
This whole deep dive really highlights a serious commitment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To both truth and community, even when they seem to clash.
It definitely challenges us. It makes you ask yourself, am I living intentionally with a clear purpose?
Yeah.
Or am I just opting for what's easy, what's convenient?
And am I willing to face some of that discomfort in relationships for something deeper, more authentic?
Yeah. So as you go about your week, maybe think about that idea that you are left in this world for a reason.
To be a kind of witness, trying to build right and complete relationships, aiming to become, metaphorically, a temple where God dwells.
So here's something to chew on. Is there one relationship in your life where holding fast to a clear standard, maybe an uncomfortable one, might actually lead to a more genuine connection in the long run?
And flipping that, how could applying that family principle, that emphasis on patience, care, maybe forgiveness, how could that potentially transform a dynamic that feels really challenging right now?
Lots to think about there.